on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list. Hope I ain't missing my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my old flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Grand Rising and good morning to all of you out there. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I missed you all today. And y'all know I miss my co-host, Big O. What up, Big O? Happy Wednesday.
Trey Holiday. Welcome back, man. It's good to see you. We missed you yesterday, but we had the big fella filling in for you, Jake Grabrot. Man, he cleaned up well again. He's unrecognizable. Jake's in here right now. We don't even recognize this guy. Yesterday, he was looking slick.
Oh man, Jake has always got that versatility. I love to see it because we saw it during the anniversary show and we were like, "Woo! Look at him cleaning up." So I'm so glad that he was able to take my place yesterday.
And he made a promise not to make me cry yesterday.
And there we go.
And that worked out. Want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show and remind you this is the perfect opportunity to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the Morning Update Show with people that you know that could appreciate culturally relevant news, information, and headlines emanating here from the Emerald City. And I'm going to give you guys a tip. I probably shouldn't because I'm going to be in line to get tickets as well. But March 25th, Mariners tickets go on sale. And you can tell that I am super excited to get back into the safe. And then also June 20th, I'm excited about that game because the Seattle Mariners are breaking out like a Negro League edition of their jerseys because they're playing the Kansas City Royals, and the Royals are going to be wearing the Kansas City Monarch jerseys, in honoring the Negro Leagues. So I already know I'm going for the tickets on the 20th first, and then any other tickets I can find.
Oh man, here we go. Back to it. I mean, as our city begins to open up sporting events, which folks have been so looking forward to. I know big baseball fan, it's coming our way right here.
That's it. And speaking of coming your way, today we got a full show. We got a few headlines, and then we're making space. That's the word people use these days. We're making space for Brianna Thomas. Brianna Thomas is running for a city council position D9. That's citywide, so a citywide seat, a very big and competitive race. We're going to be joined by Brianna Thomas, and also we're joined Barron, who today puts on one of the hundreds of hats that she wears. She is the founder of Paper Cut, Women in Music. And man, she's put together a compilation about women in music, but also today's the day as well, because today is like Women's Equal Pay Day. And so she's going to be talking about that. I know you probably got some ideas about that.
I got to work with Hamdi last year on Equal Pay Day. I think it's so important that we uplift all of these days. And as some folks would say, we have all of these amazing months, and now it's Women's History Month, is this month, but really it's about us encapsulating that in our everyday lives. And so I'm glad that Nikki will be here today to talk about it.
All right, let's jump right into it. Just a few headlines today, but to start off with, I caught up with Fire Chief Harold Scoggins yesterday out of Rainier Beach. He was getting vaccinated. They got a nice setup out there at Rainier Beach, right on the water. You can go and actually get tested, so you can get tested, and the vaccination is there. And I asked Chief Scoggins just one question. Why should people in our community, the Black community, especially our elders who are apprehensive about getting the vaccine, why should they take the vaccine?
The first thing I'll say is this vaccine has proven to work, and that's really important. We want people to be here and continue to fight and do all the things that they love to do each and every day. This vaccine will allow an opportunity for that. I'm excited about getting the vaccine today. My goal is to encourage others out there to, when you have the opportunity, please take the opportunity and get the vaccine, because it's for the community's health. Your health, you get to see your family again, your kids again, your friends and loved ones. All that helps our community on the pathway to reopening.
All right, Chief Scoggins right there. And Trey Holiday, Seattle has been recognized in its response to COVID and, in public information and testing and now vaccine. And Chief Harold Scoggins and the Seattle Fire Department are part and parcel in some of the success that Seattle has seen around COVID.
Yeah, one of the things that I think Seattle's been doing really well is partnering with, community-based organizations to make sure that networks are informed. And even tomorrow, there will be another vaccination clinic. We'll try to have the flyer out for you guys tomorrow because it's happening at Bailey Gazzard, only for those who are eligible. Let's make sure that it's very well known, because we don't want people to be signing up that are not eligible and then, ruining the process. But ultimately, it's great that the city of Seattle is providing all of these opportunities for vaccination.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I put a clip in here today from yesterday. In honor of you, we had Jessen Farrell. Jessen Farrell is running for the mayor of Seattle. And we talked to Jessen, and of course I was like, well, Trey Holiday's not here, so I definitely need to ask some questions on behalf of Treyana. And one of the questions that I asked Jessen Farrell was about the economic gap in the Black community and how she envisioned fixing that if elected mayor.
I mean, I think the first thing is just to talk about the nexus between 50 years of failed trickle-down economics and how that intersects with systemic racism. And the result is that you have Black families so far behind, and this is a system that is designed to work that way. And so our job at the city level is to, number one, like I said, this around the Black business ownership and the value, we need to say those things, and then we actually need to create specific goals, because when you say those goals, you can then develop the strategies. So we need to have specific goals and dashboards around Black family wealth and income, around Black business value, around education attainment rates, and then develop those policies. And I hope I get to come back on another show and really dig into what those are, because we know what those things are. Community has been saying that for a long time, and we need to stop patting our back because of incrementalism and really lean into the big solutions that we need in this city to rearrange money and power.
Yeah, there we have it. I think that what Jessen really points out here is direct resource allocation. And, a lot of language coming out of the community now, and we heard it here on the Converge platform, is, folks saying that this isn't necessarily just an investment. It really is doing some direct resource allocation to repair past harms. When we talk about divestment, when we talk about specific communities, Black and Indigenous communities that are at the bottom rung of almost any data metric you can measure. So I like what Jessen is talking about there, because it does have to be very direct. I know right here on this platform, we talked about, the ambiguity around the BIPOC, the term BIPOC. And so it does have to be direct and have specific measures that are going to be, really impactful to very specific communities.
I knew I was asking on your behalf, so I used the word Black.
I appreciate it, brother.
But I will say this, though. It was refreshing to get, a response that wasn't just full of platitudes and this and that and everything else. Also, Jessen Farrell said she'd love to come back and dig deeper into it. So I think that's just right up your alley.
You know it. Absolutely. I loved her saying that, to hear that, because I think that, again, this is not something that can be answered in one, question. Let me just give you a few line sentences and hit the top notes and put those words in there, right? And repurpose language. But I think that it's important that we understand the specifics of any plan when somebody's talking about breaking down the way the system is set up to work. And I love how she talked about the trickle-down economics. We talk about it oftentimes in community and beyond, where that doesn't work. And honestly, the system is working the way it was designed. So I like that she mentioned that.
All right, last headline here. This actually comes from Q13. We talked about last week how Pierce County Sheriff Ed Troyer is under fire. He put in an emergency call saying his life was in danger, and there was an overwhelming response out there in Tacoma. And it turns out that, it was the paper man delivering papers. And it's been a lot of blowback against Sheriff Troyer, and a lot of people calling for his resignation.
Pierce County Sheriff Ed Troyer facing new scrutiny today following a confrontation with a Black newspaper carrier near his Tacoma home.
The county council just announced it will hire an independent investigator to examine Troyer's conduct. Q13's Steve Scoggins has been digging in on this story since Friday and is live with all of the new developments, including more groups who are calling for Troyer's resignation. Steve?
That's right. A contingent of South Sound Democrats have all called on Sheriff Troyer to resign. So have a number of South Sound clergy members, and all of this comes after the sheriff accused a delivery newspaper man of threatening him.
They threatened to kill me, and I got them blocked in.
So that is the sheriff calling for help back in January. Troyer told dispatchers at first he thought this man was trying to break into garages in his North Tacoma neighborhood. Now that call spurred a large response from law enforcement across the South Sound, but responding officers did not make an arrest. So fast forward to this week, Monday evening, both the 27th and 29th Legislative District Democrats announced their demand that Troyer resign over this conduct. In a statement, they warned that the Black newspaper delivery driver could have died at the hands of police that night back in January. Last week, Sheriff Troyer told us he acted within department policy, but the fallout has been swift since his call for backup had been made public. Democratic leadership in the South Sound have underscored why they believe this newly elected sheriff needs to step aside.
It is their duty to make sure that they're representing us and that they're not harming us, that they're not doing any damage to us. So it is really important for everybody to understand that there is damage being done, that some things are not okay, and that they need to change those things, or we need to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing.
So Democratic leadership told us that if the sheriff does not step down on his own, those Democratic leaders plan to gather signatures in an effort to officially recall Troyer. Now, the Pierce County Council announced today it plans to launch its own outside investigator to look into Troyer's conduct, and it insisted that it would keep the process of that investigation in the public eye. We also just heard from Sheriff Troyer, who told us in a statement that he welcomed this inquiry, and he also vowed that both his office and himself would participate fully in any investigation. But coming up later on Q13 News at 5 o'clock, we're going to show you what happened down in a protest down outside the county city building in Tacoma and talk with religious leaders who are also calling on the sheriff to resign. Steve Kiggins, Q13 News.
All right, that was Q13 right there, Steve Kiggins with that story. Yeah, you know, this is the snowball keeps kind of picking up speed here on this, and there's another report of him making what people are saying is an erroneous call prior to this. Other accusations coming out, and now he's under investigation.
Well, it's one of the things that you really pointed out right here on the Morning Update show, was, you know, hey, if you felt comfortable enough to say those things in this one call, if we look at your history, how much more of that kind of activity are we going to see? Again, it goes back to people bringing in their own personal characteristics onto the job or their own ideals. And oftentimes we talk about reforms not really permeating those ideals. Here we have a sheriff. There's so many things going on in Tacoma. We had the Tacoma officer running through, you know, the crowd. We have, you know, deaths out there at the hands of police. I mean, again, this is something that's important. And I'm glad that the public is speaking out and that folks are really calling for his resignation. We do need different leadership there that's not going to be utilizing their authority in the ways that we saw him do in this particular instance.
Yeah, and dude was delivering papers, man. I mean, I got a lot to say about this, but we don't have the time for it today. But we'll continue to stay on top of this story. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we got candidate for D9, Brianna Thomas in the building. We're going to talk to Brianna Thomas about her campaign for city council and why she would want to be on the city council. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Community Voices returns for 2021 with 2 very special episodes that examine the shifting demographics and cultures of Seattle. Converge Media proudly presents Community Voices, the Vanishing Seattle edition. This is a 2-part special that examines 4 Seattle neighborhoods: the Central District, Chinatown International District, the University District, and Ballard, all Seattle neighborhoods that have experienced great change and displacement due to gentrification, rising rents, and development, as well as found creative ways to stay rooted and resilient. Also, all neighborhoods that have a long and proud history, culture, and traditions that combined help shape the face of the Emerald City as we know it today. The Community Voices episodes will include films plus discussions with local small business owners and community members. These are 2 powerful live episodes that you will not want to miss. So make sure and save the date, March 18th and March 25th at 7 p.m. across all Converge Media platforms. Presented by the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods and Vanishing Seattle.
The story of Converge Media did not start at the Seattle protests or at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, nor 4 years ago when we very first opened our doors. The true story of Converge Media is firmly rooted in the legacy of Black media heroes of yesterday, whose shoulders that we stand upon today. Converge Media is firmly rooted in the pioneering spirit of Horace Caton Sr., who over 125 years ago launched the Seattle Republican newspaper alongside his wife, Susie Revels Caton, a trailblazer in her own right, serving as the associate editor, a groundbreaking feat for a woman and especially a Black woman at that time. We are rooted in the visionary eye of Al Smith, who documented Black beauty, culture, vibrance, and excellence through his lens. We are rooted in the benevolence of Fitzgerald Beaver, who envisioned the Facts newspaper, the very same newspaper where my father, James Salisbury Jr., was a staff photographer over 4 decades ago. We are rooted in the broad and innovative shoulders of Chris Bennett, who with his Z-Twins radio took the story of Black excellence to the airwaves. We are rooted in the fearlessness of Roberta Bird Barr, who 56 years ago broke ground and shattered stereotypes as she hosted the TV show Face to Face that tackled issues of race and equity head on. We are rooted in the rhythms of Gordon Curvey, whose music Inner City brought our culture and vibes to TV screens across the Emerald City.
Converge Media is also inspired by our contemporary icons. We are inspired by the commitment to storytelling from Tony B and Rainier Avenue Radio, and inspired by the passion and dedication of Marcus Harrison Green of the South Seattle Emerald. So you see, when you look at Converge Media today, and especially as we celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Morning Update Show, just know that our story did not begin with us, nor will it end with us, as it is our duty at Converge Media to broaden our shoulders for the next generation of Black media innovators to stand firmly upon them and to tell the stories of our community to generations yet to come. Share the stream.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I also want to remind everybody, tomorrow, 7 p.m., Community Voices, the Vanishing Seattle Edition, Episode 2. We're focusing on Ballard and the Central District. You won't want to miss that. Some great segments shot by our very own Jake Grav Brock. So you want to tune in for that. And I'm joined now, and before I bring Brianna on screen, I'll let the viewers know. So we're breaking this up. We got a COVID-safe studio here, so we're breaking it up in this configuration. So I'm going to interview first, and we're going to take a break, and then Trey Holiday. But I want to welcome Brianna Thomas, candidate for Seattle City Council, D9. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, fantastic. Welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thanks for having me, and congratulations on the year. I saw y'all at the state on Friday.
Oh, yeah, it was lit.
I love it there.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is me and Trey Holiday were down here in the studio, but everybody else, except for all you, of course, everybody else was up there at the state, and it was cracking. And thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a long year.
It's been about 5 years, right?
You already know. Okay, so we've had other candidates for office on the show now over the last month or month and a half. And the first question that we start off with is, why are you running for city council position D9?
Well, I hate to start with the technocratic answer, but technically it's position 9 because it's the whole city. But I'm running because I see a need. I need to know that I can continue to believe in government. And I need to know that the people who are making decisions understand the impacts of those decisions. I've been honing the craft of governance for about 11 years now. I started the state and the Senate, which you think Seattle's a tough place. Try the Senate out for a change. And I need somebody who's got the technical know-how to make the machine go. We can agree or disagree on whether the machine is operational, but somebody's still got to operate it. And I think I'm the person that's best positioned to do that.
Right. And why now?
Because the seat was open.
It's a good answer. So maybe you could tell our viewing audience here that your current position is you're the chief of staff for Council President Gonzalez. In that role as chief of staff for Council President Gonzalez, what have you learned there that you planned to, even successes or failures, or what have you learned there that you planned you would bring into office with you if elected?
For sure. Mostly you learn from failing, right? That's where you can take the opportunity to re-examine what you did and what went well and what didn't, and course correct from that. The thing I've learned is that relationships matter. You know, people feel that government's traditionally very transactional, but it doesn't have to be. How you work in relationship with your colleagues, with your fellow public servants makes all the difference. You know, the unsung heroes of the legislative department are actually the clerks. They have to keep track of every idea and every piece of paper that we move, and you never hear about them, but I assure you, you want to stay on their good side. You know, in my job, I need to liaise with the mayor's office, with department heads and workers, with community members, with central staff, who I call the Hall of Geniuses, because they actually keep us legit. And that's the important part of governance. You have to have relationships with folks to get the work done. You have to know how to say you're sorry. You have to know when to step up. You have to know when to step back. And those relationships help guide those conversations.
Right. And man, you mentioned transactional, but in Seattle, some of the relationships between city council members and then the executive branch and people in the executive branch hasn't even been transactional. It's been frozen or frosty. And I mean, if you come into city council, what is it that you would bring to really be able, I guess, to get people to work together, even if they don't agree, which they're not supposed to agree. Of course, that's the whole point, is that there's diversity of ideas. But at times, like I said, city council's been frosty, and their relationship with the mayor and the executive branch has also been frosty. What would you do differently?
Well, I think being a known entity at this point works for me. I sort of jokingly say in meetings when we're doing introductions, hi, I'm Brianna Thomas, she, her pronouns, still Brianna. And I think that's what works in this space. People know what to expect from me in public and behind closed doors. They know I'm not afraid to have some real talk. They know I don't pull punches. I'm notoriously blunt. But that's what it takes to get the work done. The Northwest culture sometimes is a little more passive. I grew up in the South and on the East Coast, and that's where I learned how to be and how to move through the world. And so you'll see some of that in my proposal for governance style.
Right. So let's talk about a few things here. Infrastructure. We see that there's these bridges that are falling apart. Literally, the drawbridges, a lot of them are 100 years old. The West Seattle Bridge, out of commission there, and every year there's been deferred maintenance on a lot of this critical infrastructure here. Infrastructure isn't sexy. You don't get overwhelming tweets and things like that. But the money needs to be spent. What would you do as far as coming into city council to address the infrastructure issues here that our city is facing?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you that infrastructure isn't sexy. I mean, for me, I could do that for days. Like we're in Pioneer Square right now, and one of the major issues in this particular neighborhood is unreinforced masonry. And what that means for folks that don't read about it as often as I do is those bricks that are beautiful on the outside that aren't actually stuck to anything. If the big one hits, we got to make sure our city's prepared so it's not literally raining bricks from the sky. That to me is a sexy project, and that's a piece of public safety that is fundamental, but not as you say, widely spoken about. The other thing that I think is really important in the space of infrastructure is the Flood River Advisory District Committee. Now, that is a little known regional committee that makes sure that when it rains here, folks don't die in their basements because we have effective sewer systems to maintain that water overflow and everybody's safe. Seattle puts money into that commission, and Seattle should have a representative on that board that's making sure money's coming back into the community for our shared safety and stability.
Right. One of the questions that we've been asking all candidates for different positions here in the city, whether it's mayor or city council, is what is your vision of policing or public safety in 5 years? You get elected, what would be your idea vision of public safety here in Seattle?
Obviously this has been a big conversation. And one of the things that I'd like to see happen is the full manifestation of the police accountability ordinance that we passed in 2017. Now, no piece of policy is perfect, but this one's only been on its feet for 3.5 years, and there's a lot of criticisms of it. But the system is undergoing a stress test, and we as a community get to talk about where the pieces of it that are working are going well and where the pieces aren't. I make an analogy. You can't build a D1 team in under 4 years. If you're a new coach, it takes a while to get the talent in, to refine your programming, to make sure that what shows up on the court is what's the vision in your head is. And I think that that's what we're going through as a city right now. We have a vision, but we are stress testing where the successes and the failings are so we can adjust and course correct. So I'd like to give that system a thorough review. I worked on that bill, blood, sweat, tears, crying, begging, pleading in 2017. And I think that what we need to do is continue to be critical of that system, but refine it. We're not going to undo 400 years of a racist institution in 2 budget cycles. And it's hard to meet that request and that demand where we're still operating under a consent decree. I think government folks think that we stop being community. I am still part of this community, but I am the part of the community that has to be responsive to real-time requests. So last summer when folks said, we want to stay under the consent decree because obviously we still need supervision, that was legitimate. And when folks are asking for policy changes now that the council or the mayor can't unilaterally enact because we have to go through the DOJ and Judge Robart, that is also real. So the job of government is to thread the needle between both requests.
Right. And so I've got a clip here I'm getting ready to play. It's from the Postman, Kiana and Devon Pickett. They own the Postman, which is there on Martin Luther King and Union in the Central District. Just opened it a few years ago. It's a shipping service. Devon's grandfather was a letter carrier in the Central District for almost 40 years. And what they talk about here is politicians just kind of giving lip service, or even politicians kind of usurping the Black businesses and using their names, but not really committed to helping Black businesses.
Coming in and talking to us, we've experienced in the past, having politicians speak for us, and they didn't actually have a conversation with us and really listen to what we need and what we want. And so we just recommend and encourage the city leaders and politicians to, come down to the Postman, come talk with Devon or I.
And so with that being played, what would your commitment be to small businesses here in Seattle? Because we've been doing these community voices, partner with Vanishing Seattle. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, no matter the neighborhood, if you go to Ballard, the University District, the International District, a lot of what we hear is that downtown is not listening, and a lot of policies that are in place are actually hurting small businesses.
Yeah, and I think that's about a feedback loop. I think the city historically has done a lot of outreach, which feels like it's on paper and it's not an actual conversation. One of the things that's hard for me about running for public office is I'm actually a private person. I'm a better listener than I am a talker. So I think the role of balancing out who is on the council is who's got the ability to be present and listen and truly make sure that what they think they're hearing is what's being enacted upon.
Okay, I get that. And downtown, let's talk about this. I'll let this be my last question, and we'll take a break, and Trey Holiday will come in. So the DSA, the Downtown Seattle Association, they released a commercial yesterday. We won't play it here today, but it basically says downtown is open, and there's a lot of businesses, a few of them just round down the street from our offices here. They're saying downtown is open. Please come downtown. When we talk about COVID recovery in downtown Seattle, what would be your plan or your mission in regards to getting downtown Seattle back to business?
Well, first we got to make sure people feel safe, right? Like, I think that as vaccines roll out and we get that prioritization moving and shots in arms, people are going to feel more emboldened to actually go downtown and patronize the businesses that they're familiar with. Y'all had a party at the state. The state opened in 2019, and then boom, COVID hit, and now they're trying to welcome people back. I think the other thing that we have to think about is who is downtown in the reopening. What are we doing to incentivize BIPOC businesses to be able to afford those commercial rents? How are we partnering with those commercial landlords to make sure that that space is actually accessible to local businesses? We're very proud of our legacy businesses here in Seattle, but where's that legacy going to go if it's only in neighborhoods and folks don't have access to the downtown core?
All right. We're going to take a quick break right now, a Vanishing Seattle break. When we come back, my colleague Trey Holiday continues the interview session here with Brianna Thomas. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Community Voices returns for 2021 with two very special episodes that examine the shifting demographics and cultures of Seattle. Converge Media proudly presents Community Voices, the Vanishing Seattle edition. This is a two-part special that examines 4 Seattle neighborhoods: the Central District, Chinatown International District, the University District, and Ballard, all Seattle neighborhoods that have experienced great change and displacement due to gentrification, rising rents, and development, as well as found creative ways to stay rooted and resilient. Also, all neighborhoods that have a long and proud history, culture, and traditions that combined help shape the face of the Emerald City as we know it today. The Community Voices episodes will include films plus discussions with local small business owners and community members. These are 2 powerful live episodes that you will not want to miss. So make sure and save the date, March 18th and March 25th at 7 p.m. across all Converge Media platforms. Presented by the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods and Vanishing Seattle.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and we have Brianna Thomas running for a D9 seat of the Seattle City Council. Brianna, I'm glad that you were able to join us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. My first question to you, I always come from such a community perspective, and I really want to ask you out the gate, how is your lived experience going to provide some diversity in terms of the voices that we see on the council now? What is it that you're looking to bring as a part of your lived experience? And a woman of color, how does that actually play into some of the things you are looking to bring to the council?
Well, one, I appreciate the question. I think that one of the things that really seeds who I am and how I operate and how I hope to lead is my background. I started out in a trailer park in Hepzibah, Georgia with a white mom in the 90s. I regularly got stopped in the grocery store so folks could congratulate my mom on adopting me. Right. So that is who I am foundationally, and who, when you're nervous in the middle of the night, that's the voice that I hear, is that little girl who's looking for an opportunity, looking to come up, looking to work hard and get to this space. It took me 12 years to get my 4-year degree. So I know a little bit about persistence and resilience and also transferring schools, all here in Washington State. And that's who I am. I've been a bouncer. I've waited tables. I've been a cater waiter. I've taken out garbage. There's very few jobs in the city I haven't done, and very few parts of the city I haven't worked in. And all of that comes with me in the room when we're sitting at that table making policy.
Well, that's really great. I think it's so important to have real diversity in terms of lived experience on the council. One of the things I actually heard you say when Omari was interviewing you just now was something around the flood committee, right? And that we need representation. I think that there's a lot of community measures that are kind of working towards bridging the gap to get folks to understand some of the power these committees hold. How will you do that as being someone on the city council to provide those kinds of opportunities to folks that normally don't know about them? And really, they need also diverse voices and faces on those committees.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons I have stayed in this space, because it is a hard space to hold your seat as a woman of color and pull other seats up for other people at that table. But I love little D democracy. I love public comment, no matter what they're saying to us that day. I like making sure people feel like their democracy belongs to them, because it does. That's why I spent so much time as a campaign manager. That's an immediate way to transfer power into the hands of folks who don't traditionally want to access it, because it's been a disappointment. There are small things that you can do in an office as a council member: who you prioritize for your interns, how you prioritize hiring, how you're communicating with community that reflects that that is a priority for you and you do want to hear those voices. If I have the honor of being elected, I am going to strive to figure out how to make inside baseball sexy. We have a whole bunch of jargon, a whole bunch of acronyms, and a very difficult to understand schedule, unless that's what you're doing all the time. So I think that would be my role, and hopefully my voice on the council, is pulling back that veil and making sure folks do know where to plug in.
Well, you hit the nail on the head there for me, because I think accessibility is such a key prime factor to why so many people are not really engaged in the process. One of the things too that I think you really bring is being there, having an inside look. How do you see yourself being able to expand on some of the gaps that you've been able to identify in your current role if you are elected?
Well, I think that technical know-how from a staff perspective really informs the conversation. Being able to know on day one how that committee schedule works, so you're prepared for what you need in terms of support as a council member. So you're on top of your policy, you're on top of your communications, you're on top of dynamics. A lot of government is stuff that isn't said on top of the speeches and the conversation that is very public. So having, like, as I mentioned earlier, having that relationship with folks already established, so the central staffer, when I wake up with a vision for the world, feels comfortable telling me, you can't pull that off, Brianna. Let's be real together and try one other way. I think that that's what I bring to this race and to this position.
Yeah, I think that's really key, because really so much of our community has been let down by governmental bodies, by governmental officials, elected officials. I think it's important right now, and especially in the times we're in, to work to build the trust. So being very, I think, realistic, as you just put it, in terms of how to make things move at that governmental level is going to be key. I also heard you talk about being more of a listener than a talker, right? And so I want to ask you, right now, so many measures happening on the ground from a community roots perspective, right? Various communities are really saying, we can't rely on government or our elected officials to get it right for us. We have to create the measures ourselves. We have to create the programs. We have to create the institutions. How will you be listening to those community voices in the diverse ways that they come? How will you really be listening to that to bring that knowledge and expertise into the work that you would do as a council member?
Well, I think that's been one of the things that was most interesting and challenging last year. There were a lot of needs, and they were coming hard, and they were coming fast, and sometimes they were coming with contradictory recommendations. And I think you've got to weigh the good of the whole, and sometimes you've got to say no. It is not popular to say no from the position of a government office. People do not want to hear that. They want to hear yes, and they want to hear yes yesterday. But every once in a while, you have to say, I can't actually achieve that, and just own it. Now, investments in community for community-based solutions has been a priority of the council for the last several years. You know, we got about $72 million almost all the way out the door this year for community-based investments to follow communities' lead. I think where it gets tricky is a discussion that we're having about who community legitimately is and how we decide that legitimacy. We know when government gets involved, there creates tension that's unnecessary in communities that are already trying to hold themselves together and lift themselves up. And I think it's really difficult for government to be put in the place of deciding who winners and losers are.
Yeah, you know, we've talked about this with other candidates on this platform here at Converge, that we do have a divided city. I mean, we see it all the time. We see it on the ground as a community advocate and you know, somebody who's an activist. I see it in different ways. And, you know, I think it's important, something that you just said there about saying no, about identifying who community is. How will you actually bring about maybe some unity that's necessary? Or maybe you think, you know what, these folks over here, you got to speak to them this way and these folks this way. But what is it that you really see in terms of unifying our Seattle?
Yeah, I think making sure that someone who's in this seat is prepared to have those difficult conversations. Right now, sitting in my role, we do try to serve the entire city, and we do so with reasonable success. But we've worked on policies in the past, secure scheduling, for instance, directly benefited low-wage workers in big retail stores with predictability in their schedules so they could plan for doctor's appointments, take care of their families, plan their transit routes, and make sure they were building the lives that was best for themselves. That took 6 months of listening and being told from two different directions what the right answer was. And I think what we've got to do here is realize that we are all invested in the best outcomes for our communities. And although we express that in different ways, sometimes you have to assume good intent and stay in an active listening mode and then be willing to be checked when you're wrong.
Yeah, you know, I think that the public has really voiced some concern, right, with not just council, but elected officials in general. I think there's just like a degrading of that relationship. And as I hear you talking and saying, well, we've done this and we've done that, sometimes that doesn't actually land on people's ears. You know what I mean? What do you say to the folks who say, I don't care what it seems like city council has done. It hasn't benefited me in my lived experience. I'm still working paycheck to paycheck. I'm still on survivor mode. What do you say to those folks who feel like the measures that you were just describing in a couple of your past answers have not actually hit their lived experience?
It's a work in progress, and I'm sorry we didn't get there faster. We ran into this when we were doing the $15 wage initiative in SeaTac. I'd knock on doors and folks would be like, well, nobody got that for me. And that didn't make my path easier. And all I can say is I got here as fast as I could. I promise I didn't delay. And I will bring that sort of ethos and that willingness to keep doing that work and keep driving to make sure those solutions feel real to people. Because I can give a pretty speech, but if it doesn't hit your paycheck, you're right, Triana, then nothing happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brianna, thank you for coming on to the show today and being, you know, transparent with us in your current role and what you're looking to do and accomplish on the city council level. You guys heard it from Brianna right here today. You know, this is what it's all about. We want to make sure that we're bringing the information to you guys in a way that you guys can actually analyze it, utilize it, and make the best decision for you when it comes to city council. We're going to go ahead and take a break right now. Stay tuned. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Community Voices returns for 2021 with 2 very special episodes that examine the shifting demographics and cultures of Seattle. Converge Media proudly presents Community Voices, the Vanishing Seattle edition. This is a 2-part special that examines 4 Seattle neighborhoods: the Central District, Chinatown International District, the University District, and Ballard, all Seattle neighborhoods that have experienced great change and displacement due to gentrification, rising rents, and development, as well as found creative ways to stay rooted and resilient. Also, all neighborhoods that have a long and proud history, culture, and traditions that combined help shape the face of the Emerald City as we know it today. The Community Voices episodes will include films plus discussions with local small business owners and community members. These are 2 powerful live episodes that you will not want to miss. So make sure and save the date, March 18th and March 25th at 7 p.m. across all Converge Media platforms. Presented by the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods and Vanishing Seattle.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and it's always exciting when we can bring in Nikki, Barron, producer, and so many other things extraordinaire. What's up, Nikki?
Hi.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Well, today we are talking about Equal Pay Day, and I know you have several things you want to drop on us. Go ahead. I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah. So if you don't know, Equal Pay Day is the day, they call this All Women Equal Pay Day. And it's the day basically actually for white women, where if we worked all of last year and then all the way through today, then we would make what a white male non-Hispanic would make in just 1 year. And those dates are different depending on race as well. So today is Equal Pay Day for white women, but for Black women, it's not until August 3rd. For Native women, it's not until September 8th. And for Latin women, it's not until October 21st. So they work nearly 2 years to make what white men make in one.
Wow. I got to say, I love that you just broke it down race by race, because when I first heard you say equal pay day for white women, I was like, what? What does that mean? So it is very important that people understand when we talk about the gaps, you guys, they are real and the data just keeps on showing it. Right, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, for white women, it's really interesting. So a recent study showed that if a 20-year-old woman started working today full time, they stand to lose over $400,000 over the course of a 40-year career. For Black women, it's $940,000. For Hispanic women, it's $1.1 million lost over the course of a 20-year career.
I mean, these are the kind of things that it's crazy to me that in 2021, we're still talking about something that is so important. I mean, I think about the women's suffrage movement. I think about, women should vote, all of these things. But ultimately, we're all here. And it doesn't make any sense to me that when you have women doing equal amounts of work as men, even sometimes more, because they stay on the job longer. They're always trying to prove themselves, particularly in all of America, but corporate America in particular. I see this. We talk about the fact that there are, when you think about C-level executives for women, those numbers always showcase disparities.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, I think that there was this sort of, belief for a long time that it was that we just weren't aggressive enough in our negotiation. And there was this whole concept of leaning in, that we just needed to do more work and do that. And there's so much evidence that shows that it doesn't matter. You can work longer hours, you can work harder, you can do all the things, and you're still going to make 82 cents on the dollar in most jobs. So it's not about leaning in. It's about making, in my opinion, legislation. It's about making a culture where we talk about what we get paid. A lot of companies right now, it's actually completely legal for companies to have you sign a piece of paper saying you won't tell other people you work with how much money you make. And if you're a man, and if you're a woman, that means that you don't know what your male colleagues are making. So when you go in to negotiate, you're really missing a huge tool for leverage. And actually right now they're working on legislation. They're talking about it today, perfect day for it. And it's actually the Paycheck Fairness Act. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it illegal for employers to make you sign this piece of paper, so people have transparency and actually can see what other people make at their job. But there's also going to be, funding put in place to have things like negotiation training, stuff like that. But this is not an issue that we can just work out. Like, it's not just like we just need to work harder. It truly is an issue that needs to be legislated and needs to be culturally changed. We need to be talking about it and having men be on our sides to advocate for us.
I gotta say this because as I'm hearing you speak for me, so much of it goes back to capitalism, right? You're going to pay people what they'll accept for something. And that really is at the heart of it, to me, the issue here. When you have, executives that are looking to save money with the measures that they take on their job, when you have managers that are involved in retail stores that are everybody's looking to figure out ways to save money and save their bottom line, ultimately it is the people that really deal with those savings. We're the ones that deal with the gaps and the disparity there, or things are often then times passed on to the consumer. So I think that so much of this is really about how we identify and value one another as, contributors to our society. And it's really a social equity thing for me, because it goes back to something that feels like this is why I have issues with some of the roots of capitalism. Not necessarily, people out there trying to build their businesses and make their money. I get it. But also we have to be very cognizant that it shouldn't even be up to us to negotiate. It should be, we understand your worth, your value here. And because we understand that, you deserve this amount of money, versus it's about how good you can negotiate. And it's about us, being as transparent as we can be. Some of those things should really be coming from a level that we just haven't seen, Nikki.
Definitely. And I think it's a misconception when people try to say that low wages are better for capitalism. So there was actually a study that was done, and they found that there's regions of the United States that are called fair pay areas. So Seattle is a fair pay area where the minimum wage is the same for restaurant workers as it is for like retail workers or any other workers. That's not the case nationwide. Most of the nation has a tipping wage, which is just $2.13. And people argue that the lower wage makes for better growth, but we've actually seen in places with these fair pay areas, they actually had faster restaurant growth than other areas of the nation. And we were able to actually make a real difference in the community. So for example, 23% of tipped workers of women of color, live in poverty in areas where we don't have these fair pay areas. But in places like Seattle, that number is only 14%. And so it makes a huge difference. So that's one thing that, I think people are like, oh, well, we have to pay low wages because the consumers want the cheapest price and all of these things. And that's not necessarily true. The data shows that areas that have these fair pay wages have faster economic growth, especially in areas that are, like restaurant and tipped workers. So it's a misconception. And I think people just need to do the research. When I hear people are like, oh, well, I can't pay more, it's going to hurt my bottom line. It's actually, the data shows you might see some growth. So look into it.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to when you have healthy, happy, thriving employees, then they are coming to work with a different conception, a different perspective. They're more excited to be there. And that actually benefits your company. It's quite a misnomer that, let's keep these guys, let's keep them under our thumb. And just because we have to have these profit margins, but so much of it is really a misnomer. I'm glad that you're bringing out these data metrics, Nikki. I mean, once again, we see it in so many different facets. And I want to say this too, because we're talking about folks that are taking away huge bonuses too. And sometimes it is about, when we talk about equity, it is cutting into certain pies.
Yeah, definitely is. I think I had one more thing I wanted to do, and I wanted to just give a couple of tips for people who might be interested in helping on this issue. And so I found a really great list on Forbes today that I wanted to share. And one of the first one they have is to sponsor, coach, or mentor women in your workplace or industry. I think that's a huge one. I know for me, I was really fortunate because my mom is a woman in business, and she taught me to negotiate, and she taught me to be a good investor and a good saver. And so having that mentorship was helpful. So whether you're a man or a woman, mentor the people that you work with. The next one was to be transparent about your pay. If you haven't signed one of those waivers that legally binds you to say you can't talk about your pay, share how much money you make if you're a man with the women you work with, so they have some negotiation and leverage. Another one is this, which I thought was really great, is take your paternity leave. We get so much stress by taking maternity leave as women because a lot of men don't take their paternity leave. So then it becomes sort of like a we're not working as hard kind of situation. But if you take your paternity leave, it makes taking maternity leave a lot easier. The fourth one is speak up when you don't see gender parity or racial parity in the room. So if you're at a meeting and business decisions are being made and you know there's a woman that should be in that room, be the guy that stands up and says like, hey, let's do something about this. Let's get these women in the room. Recognize that you have unconscious bias. So don't kind of go to that default, like, it's not me, like I would never, do this. Understand that like you don't realize it because you grew up with this like pressure of toxic masculinity and stuff that can make it so it's unconscious for you. And the other thing is that if you are a business owner and you don't you don't live in an area that's a fair wage area like we are in Seattle, consider paying your restaurant workers and your tipped workers the full minimum wage, plus let them get tips. I think you're going to see a happier and healthier workforce. So those are my tips, and a couple from Forbes as well. So if you want to get, you want to do something about equal pay day, like hop in, let's do this.
I love that. It really is on us to figure out what we can do. And I'm always saying right here on the Converge platform, see yourself as a part of the solution. If you have that power to wield it, find ways to build equity in your own institutions, in your businesses, in your corporations. I love that. Nikki, you wear many, many hats. And so before we let you go today, I know that you also have been doing music videos here, and we have one. So I'll let you bring it up.
Yeah, so I didn't actually direct this music video, but so what it is a couple of years ago, a friend of mine, Sarah Gerritsen, she started doing a happy hour for women in music. And if you don't know, I work in music as a marketing and business coach, photographer, videographer, kind of just a mixed bag. Sarah's a musician. And so she was doing these really great happy hours, and she wanted to get a little more formalized. She knew that I am good at infrastructure, things like that. So we started the Women in Music Collective, and we just launched our first compilation put together by the amazing Elisa Newhall, who is featured on this record as well. She's also part of Bushwick Book Club, another great Seattle music organization. She's a music educator. If you play video games, you may hear her like witchy singing sometimes. She's got such a great, like amazing musical career, but she put this together. She went out, she got a grant, she paid all the artists for their songs, and put together this beautiful record. And you can actually pick it up on our website at women.inmusic.org. And yeah, just like pick it up. We've got physical CDs. You can also get a digital download of the CD. And one of the songs that you're going to see on here is American Blues by Stephanie Ann Johnson and the High Dogs. And that is actually the song that we're going to play for you today. So you guys can get a little taste of what you're going to get. I guess we're back on me. It never comes back on me. I didn't know what to do.
Well, I know that you have a great collaboration with all these women, and you were just telling me an opportunity for our Converge listeners.
Yeah, so you are welcome to pick it up on our website if you'd like a CD or a digital download, but we're also going to give 5 of them away. So if you subscribe to Converge as a monthly donor of any amount on any of our platforms, we are going to pick 5 people randomly and mail you this awesome CD. It's 15 songs of local Seattle women doing what they do, making good music. So go and subscribe to Converge Media and enter to win.
Amazing. I loved her voice on that too. Ooh, blew me away.
She gives me chilled every time.
Great stuff. Well, thank you so much, Nikki, for joining us. Always a pleasure having you here. Such great information, so vital to our community, and definitely pick up that CD, you guys. You guys are watching the Morning Update Show. We're going to take a quick break right now. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Community Voices returns for 2021 with 2 very special episodes that examine the shifting demographics and cultures of Seattle. Converge Media proudly presents Community Voices, the Vanishing Seattle edition. This is a 2-part special that examines 4 Seattle neighborhoods: the Central District, Chinatown International District, the University District, and Ballard, all Seattle neighborhoods that have experienced great change and displacement due to gentrification, rising rents, and development, as well as found creative ways to stay rooted and resilient. Also, all neighborhoods that have a long and proud history, culture, and traditions that combined help shape the face of the Emerald City as we know it today. The Community Voices episodes will include films plus discussions with local small business owners and community members. These are 2 powerful live episodes that you will not want to miss. So make sure and save the date, March 18th and March 25th at 7 p.m. across all Converge Media platforms. Presented by the City of Seattle Department of Neighborhoods and Vanishing Seattle.
Wow. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. So many amazing productions happening right here on Converge. Vanishing, the Community Voices, Vanishing Seattle edition. Second round tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Welcome back to the studio, O.
Good to be here. We've been having our musical chairs going, but been a great show. Want to thank Brianna Thomas for joining us, and of course, producer extraordinaire Nikki Barron. And like I said, the link is in the comments. You guys go and check this out. And then also, we're doing a giveaway for new subscribers. So whether you subscribe through our website or through Patreon or through Facebook, we want to make sure and get this out there. And great information that she passed along as well.
Absolutely. It's important that we understand these data metrics around Equal Pay Day. I love how it's broken down by race to get folks to really understand there's some huge disparities there.
Right. And some breaking news while we were on air. We got one more overlay here. It looks like that they've come to a settlement in the Tommy Lay case. So King County Sheriff's Office will pay $5 million settlement in deputy's fatal shooting of Tommy Lay. And this is a story that we've been covering here for quite a long time. It looks like they're going to settle it. The original case was for $10 million. And to be honest with you, this was the case we said it was like peeling an onion. First, they said that he had a knife. Then they said that he had a pen, and then he might not have even had a pen. And first they said that they shot him in the forehead. It turns out that he was shot in the back. Then there was all kinds of different things with the prosecutor wanted them. I mean, the defense, which is basically the King County and the sheriff's office, they wanted the trial to occur in person, even though it's COVID. Yeah. I mean, they pulled everything out the bag here, but it looks like the King County Sheriff's Office didn't feel they were going to win this case, and they've settled now for $5 million.
Well, here we are. I think it's so important to really take note of all of these cases that are resulting in settlement. When you're doing the right thing, you don't actually need these settlements. So, I mean, as the bill gets run up, we'll see how they do some different measures to ensure that these kinds of cases do not result like this.
All right, before we get out of here, Trey Holiday, any last words?
You know what? It is Wednesday, you guys. I mean, make it a great Wednesday. And you guys have heard me say it before, even earlier today. Please begin to see yourself as a part of the solution. There are so many different amazing measures happening at various levels, not just within community, outside of community. There's ways to be engaged in the civic engagement process. Just find a way to see yourself as a part of the solution.
All right, good stuff. As far as today, programming notes, we have the coronavirus update at 6:15 p.m. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to be joined by Devon Pickett of the Postman. And Postman is featured there in Community Voices, which airs at 7 p.m. tomorrow. And we are also going to be joined tomorrow by Renee Ricchetti. And so Renee, you might remember, a journalist for Seattle Gay News and Malcontent in Capitol Hill. I think I've got a handcrafted graphic over there, Director Oya. And there it is. You know, I work hard on these. So Renee Ricchetti tomorrow is going to be joining us. There was an OPA case from July 25th of where an officer threw a flashbang over in her direction, and she suffered hearing loss. And so it went to OPA. OPA made a determination around that. And so we're going to discuss that with Renee tomorrow. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Is clapback tomorrow? I mean, it's Thursday.
Yes,
yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Man, tomorrow's big. Thank you, Trey
Yeah,
Holiday.
big day.
Tomorrow at 6:00. And actually, thank you, because Clapback Culture is at 6:00 tomorrow. It was at 6:00 last week as well. So Mike Davis and Julia Jesse will be joining us for Clapback Culture at 6 p.m. tomorrow, followed by Community Voices, the Vanishing Seattle edition at 7:00 tomorrow.
Wow, full schedule right here at Converge.
A lot of stuff going on. All right, so we're going to get out of here. And as usual, want to remind you, go forward in your purpose and go forward in your humanity. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.